You know, when you're watching one of these house music playlists at 2 o'clock in the morning and they always got some fancy shit going on in the back. Well, I'm going to teach you how to make that fancy shit here today in Blender. And I bet you one of you people watching this is going to be smart enough to figure out that if you start reaching out to these channels that are making these fucking videos, some of them are going to be willing to pay you to make this shit for their videos so they can use it as background images. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Now, if you're actually trying to make some money and you want to learn about all the techniques for how to reach out to people and how to do business as a 3D artist, check out our Blender school. But I don't want to talk about any of that shit in this video. I just want to do the modeling, so let's get to work. Anytime you're making a scene that looks something like this, you're going to have to start by creating your environment first, and then you're going to start adding shit into that environment. So the first thing that we have to do in a situation like this is we got to pick out an HDRI. To do that, you're going to go to Google, type in HDRI, click on Polyhaven HDRI. In this case, we're just going to need some kind of sky background. Preferably, we want sea. We don't want to have no bush or nothing like that. So we're going to click on something like this. This is nice and sunny. You can just download that up here. You might decide to change this later on, so just keep in mind you can always go back and pick another one. Now we're going to go to Blender and we're going to load in the HDRI. So go up here to rendered view, change the render engine to cycles because Eevee looks like shit. And now to set up your HDRI, you're going to go up here to shading, switch this window here from object to world. And now you got your background node over here, which allows you to change the color. And the same way that you can change the texture of an object in a principled BSDF node using the color input, you can change the texture of the whole sky, so you can put in whatever you want here. Now here with Shift A, we got to search for an added environment texture node. You're going to plug that fucker into color and then click on open and just pick out the HDRI that you downloaded here. And now you're going to be able to see that in your environment. So now you can see that it kind of looks like the scene that we're trying to create. It's got the right lighting, the right sunshine and all this. If we're trying to make this outdoor villa, but the environment looks like a forest, it's not going to make any sense and it's going to look like shit no matter what you do. So keep in mind that the first thing you got to do is set up the HDRI and then you can start working. Now, if you look at this scene over here, we got some simple white objects making a nice house. We got a swimming pool over here with some water. We got some of these things. We're going to start by making the house because that's going to help us set up the perspective. So when you look through the camera, you can set it up properly. You can kind of get a feeling for the depth of the scene, and then we can start adding in everything else. So we can just use a default cube for now. We're going to extrude this back a little bit. I'm going to try and follow the grid as much as I can. So I'm going to use loop guts if I have to create these sort of units here. This way it's like the building blocks of the house are default cubes. It just makes it a little bit easier to work with. You don't gotta do this if you don't want to. And now in this case, I don't really know where the sunshine is coming from, so I'm just gonna pick whatever direction I think looks best. I kind of want to have some sunshine in my scene because over here where I'm at, it's winter time. There's no sunshine. It's cold and it's dark. I want to see some sunshine because I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. So in rendered view, we're gonna go back to the shading tab, and now over here in the shader tab, we're gonna adjust the position of the HDRI to control the sunshine. So you're gonna have to enable some tools to be able to do this in Blender. Go up here to edit, preferences, add-ons, search for node wrangler, check this box right here, and now when you select this, you can just press Ctrl T. It's going to give you these two nodes, and you can just rotate the Z-axis like this, and as you can see, that's going to change the position of your sun. I'm going to have mine coming from over there, so let's just leave it at that. And then let's imagine this is the bottom part of my house. Now I'm also going to extrude something over here in the back just so I got a corner. Then I'm going to select all the faces up here, and we're going to use this to make the upper floor. But keep in mind that here the upper floor doesn't look the same as the bottom floor, so we can't just extrude this out. This is not a communist building. This is something different. In fact, this image was maybe generated by AI anyway, who knows? But we're just going to extrude this a little bit, and then we're going to use these faces over here to extrude out the floor for the next floor. So do that once over here and do it again over here on the other side. And if this is too thick, you can always just select these faces again and push them down a little bit further. But I'm going to keep it like this for now, and we're going to see what happens later. Now I'm going to duplicate this and lift it up by another unit or two, then extrude it again, give it the same thickness. And now I can start trying to place our camera somewhere around here with Ctrl-Alt-0. You're probably going to want to work from this angle because it just feels more comfortable because you can see what the camera is going to see later on. But we are still going to change the position of the camera as we go. Now the shape of this fucking house is so simple that anybody that's been using Blender for more than 2 days can figure out how to make it. But I understand I probably got some complete beginners watching this video, so I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. First, I'm going to try and make these bars or beams or whatever you want to call them over here. To do that, I'm just going to zoom in over here, select one of these vertices and place the cursor there with Shift S. Then I'm going to add a little cube and scale it down. In object mode, you're going to push it in so there's a little gap between that and the outer edge. And now just take the bottom face and lower it down in the z-axis. We're going to make this a little bit thinner by scaling it down with Shift Z. And now we're going to go to the modifier tab in object mode. With this thing selected, you're going to add modifier generate array. In this case, I got to set the X factor to 0 and the Y factor to 1 or 2. Maybe we're going to do 2.2, 2.5, who knows? Just figure out what works best for you. And we're going to need probably around 30 of these, in which case I'm also going to have to make them a little bit thinner so they don't occupy too much space. I'm also going to need another set of these over there in the corner, so I'm going to place that back there. Next, we're going to select these edges up here. With P, you're going to separate them to new object. Then edit this new object, extrude it down in the z-axis by exactly minus 0.1 meter, and then extrude this whole thing backwards by 0.1 meter. You might have this weird shading shit going on in the back here. That's because of your normals. To fix that, select all the geometry and press Shift N to recalculate normals. It might be Control N for you. Anyway, you can go up here to mesh normals, recalculate normals, you'll be all right. Now you're going to press Alt S to shrink this down a little bit like this. And when you do this, you're going to get a little menu down here. Make sure to check even offset and make sure to set the value to something reasonable like 0.003 in this case. We just want to have a little bit of a gap between the beams that we're creating right now. And now in the modifiers tab, you're going to go to add modifier, generate array, uncheck relative offset and check constant offset. Set the X distance to 0, set the Z distance to minus 0.1. As you can see now, we got this little gap between the beams. Let's push those backwards a little bit. Set the count to 5. And now if you want, you can use Alt S to increase or decrease the size of these gaps here. Now duplicate this in an object mode. You're going to lower it down to the bottom. On this duplicated object, you're going to reduce the count to just 3. And you can apply the array modifiers here because I want to use this geometry here to create something else. So I'm going to take this block right here. I'm going to select it with L, Shift D, right click, push it backwards by minus 1 unit. And I'll take all the geometry from the back of that bar and I'll push it backwards a little bit further. This is going to be the ceiling of the balcony. We don't have to do the floor because we don't see it here anyway. I just want it to look good from this angle. And now I'm just going to take one segment of one of the beams here, Shift D, right click, lower it down, push it backwards a little bit to around here somewhere. Fill this with F, give me a loop cut here, and then push it backwards by minus 0.1 unit. And now you can extrude this backwards and this is going to go into the room. Make sure to select this and separate it to new object. We're also going to use another array modifier here. Again, we want to have constant offset. Set that to minus 0.1 meter on the z-axis. And now just run up the count until you reach the floor. We're going to push this backwards a little bit so we can see it better. If you want to see what I'm doing, here's the reference image. We're creating this part right here, right now. And listen, if any of this shit is difficult for you to follow, if I'm using techniques that you've never heard of before and I'm moving too quickly, I explained literally every single tool and technique that I ever use when I'm modeling something inside my Blender ebook. You can check that out. There's a link in the description. If you learn the tools that are in there, you're never ever gonna wonder about any of the tools you ever see me use in any of these videos because you're gonna know what they are and it's gonna be much easier to follow. It also teaches you the basics of texturing and all this shit. So there's nothing in this video or any of my other tutorials that is not explained in that ebook for beginners. Now let's zoom over here and make a window or the sliding glass door shit that you go through when you want to get on the balcony. To do that, let's first do a little bit of alignment. Let's just keep it professional. I'm going to go to side view and I'm going to push this into here. And I want to have the same distance here on this side and over here on this side. So first of all, let's take this piece and align it over here with the grid. We're going to increase the count here to whatever fits best. And now I'm going to apply the modifier, select all this geometry, Shift S, cursor to selected. Then in object mode, we're going to go to object, set origin to 3D cursor. Now the origin point is exactly in the middle of the object, so we can align it exactly between these faces over here in the middle. We'll place the 3D cursor there, then we'll just snap that over to the 3D cursor. And now we can just delete the other one and duplicate this shit over to this side. So we're going to select these faces here, cursor to selected, Shift D, right click, Shift that selection to cursor, and now we're good to go. I know I did that really quickly, but you can just watch that part of the video again. Don't go talking shit in the comments because I don't have time to argue with you people about this shit. And now we're going to do something similar with this one over here. First, let's bring it over here to this side. You can place it whatever way you want to place it. Now we're going to place the 3D cursor onto these bars. Then select the right side of this wall. With the 3D cursor as a pivot point, you're going to scale that to 0 on the y-axis. Delete this face on the end. And now just Shift D, right click, scale to -1 on the y-axis to mirror it over to the other side. And you can also set the origin point of this object to the same location. Object, set origin to 3D cursor. So now if you want to duplicate this and align it exactly the same way with this side, you can just place the cursor over there, Shift D, snap that to the other side, and you're good to go and everything's aligned and everything's looking good. We do got to correct the normals, so let's take care of that real quick. And you can even take this a step further by linking these two objects, so you can only make one window and it's going to apply to both of these objects. That way you don't have to do everything twice. To do that, you can select this one, then shift select this one, press Ctrl L in object mode. In the link transfer data, click on link object data. Now anything you do over here is going to happen on the other side as well. Now I want to apply the ray modifier, but that's going to unlink these two objects, so whatever. We'll just link them again with Ctrl L link object data. And now I can just take this vertex, extrude it back to here. I'll do this in a separate object and I'll join it back later on. Extrude this all the way down to the floor. Place the cursor over here onto this wall so you can align this with the wall. And now give me a loop cut here. Press I to inset. You're going to make the outer frame for the window. Now you can delete one of these interfaces and take the other one here, inset it one more time with I. Delete the inner part, select this and separate that to a new object. You're going to move that backwards a little bit, give the frame a little bit of thickness, then give the window a little bit of thickness. Now duplicate the window, push it backwards to make the other one, and then push that over here to the end. You want to zoom in and try to do this carefully so you don't get any light leaks or anything like that. And now you can join this back into the wall with Ctrl J. In this case, we get some crazy shit going on over here because the objects are linked, but this one still has an array modifier. So we got to get rid of that, and then we can join this, and then it's going to be duplicated properly. Now let's finish up this window by adding a little bit of glass. To do that, you can zoom in on this frame right here, Shift D, right click, separate that to a new object. We're going to make this just a little bit thinner on the x-axis, then fill in the back, fill in the front. The window's got to have some thickness. And now you're going to go to the material tab, add a new material, then change the surface here from principled BSDF to glass BSDF. And now if you just turn down the roughness, it's going to look like a goddamn window. You might want to change the IOR to something a little bit more reasonable. Now, one of the things about the glass shader that I can't wrap my head around is I don't know why that shit casts shadows. I tried Googling this, I couldn't find an answer. It seems to just be something's fucked up with Blender. So we're going to switch this back from glass to principled. Down here, we're going to crank up transmission to let the light through, and then we're going to reduce the alpha a little bit so it doesn't cast a pitch black ass shadow. Now it's a little bit softer, it's a little bit more reasonable, whatever. Now we're going to use two vertices from the outside of the window to extrude out the other glass pane, which is in front of this thing on the balcony right here. Extrude this thing out a little bit. We got some more glass now. Now you want to use the same technique to add another window down here. I'm not going to talk about this again because you already know how to do it now. Now I know you're waiting for me to show you how to make the damn swimming pool, so let's quickly set up the outside and then we're going to make the pool. First, I'm just going to extrude a little step out here like this. I also want to have the same thing going on around the corner here, so just extrude this down a little bit like this, then take these edges and extrude them out to create the terrace. You decide where you want the pool to start. I kind of wanted to start around here somewhere so you can jump out the balcony. Maybe we'll give it a little bit more space so you can fit the tanning beds. Then I'm going to extrude this part out a little bit further to create the back side of the frame for the pool like this here. I don't want to have no little pool, I want to have a big ass pool, so I'm going to push this all the way to out here somewhere. I don't really care about the geometry right now. This doesn't have to connect. We just got to extrude this down a little bit. This is going to be the hole for the pool. You can fill this if you want to. And now here's the most important part. Here's how you make the water. You're going to be surprised by how easy this is. We don't got to do no fluid simulations or any crazy shit like that. Making water for decent swimming pools is the easiest thing you've ever seen in your life. First, we just need to create the water surface. So let's just select this geometry, duplicate it, fill it with F. So we got a face here. Separate that to new object. Now you're going to go to your rendered view. You're going to add a new material here, which you're going to name water. Crank up metallic, reduce the roughness to damn near 0. Right now it just looks like a mirror, so we want to add the ripples at the top. So go over here to the shading workspace. All you got to do is add a noise texture node, then add a bump node, plug the color into height, plug the normal into normal, reduce the strength to something like 0.05 or whatever. And now just play around with the scale here a little bit until it looks right. I think something like this looks pretty cute. Now we can't see the inside of the pool. If you want to see the inside of the pool and you want to add some lights and shit, we can talk about that in another video. I did that on one of my live streams where I was making one of these villas. That's a little bit of a different story. Let me know in the comments if you want me to talk about that. Right now, I'm just trying to create something simple where the water is reflecting the house, as you can see in this reference image. And then if you want to take this shit to another level, we can talk about it on a different occasion. So now I'm going to adjust the position of my camera a little bit so I can see more of the water, so I can see the reflections and all this. That's what's going to make it look nice and fancy. In fact, I think I might have to reduce the focal length to something more like 35. That way I can see a wider angle. And one more thing we got to pay attention to is the stretching on this texture on the surface of the water. We're going to go to noise texture here, press Ctrl T to add a node wrangler. Just change this from generated to object so it doesn't look like shit. And now we got to reduce the scale a little bit. And now we got rid of the stretching problem. I also thought of a better way to handle our glass problem, because right now the glass looks pretty shitty. Up here it looks alright, but this window doesn't make no sense at all. So I'm going to select this glass last material right here, get rid of the principal node, Shift A, add a glossy node. Then with Shift A, you want to add a transparency node. Then you're going to add a mix shader node. You're going to combine these two nodes with the mix shader node. Plug that into surface. Make sure the glossy node roughness is on 0. And now if you pull this all the way to the right, it's 100% glossy node. If you pull it all the way to the left, it's 100% transparent node. If you put it somewhere in the middle, it's half-half. You want to make it transparent with a little bit of glossiness. Now you can see what's inside. You can also see what's going on the outside. There's probably a better way to do this, but who gives a fuck? It's all right for now. Now I want to add a couple of these sun beds here as well. You don't have to make these yourself if you don't want to. You can just go to Sketchfab, search for sun bed. It's going to give you a million different options. Pick out whatever you want. You can pay for them. You don't got to pay for them. You can get some of them for free as well. But the free ones are all shitty. We're gonna have to make them ourselves. So let me teach you how to make a sun bed. You're gonna go down here, Shift A, give me a plane, scale that down to whatever is the size of a human being. You're gonna push this part out a little bit to make it longer. I'm just gonna copy the ones that I can see right here, extrude this up and push it backwards a little bit. Alt E, extrude faces along normal to give it a little bit of thickness. Make sure to check even offset down here. Now place the 3D cursor on the bottom face, then go to top view, Shift A, give me a little cube, place it right here. This is gonna be one of the legs. You can place it on one of the corners over here like this. You're gonna lower that down a little bit, then push this down into the ground. Then select this little cube, set the pivot point to 3D cursor up here, then Shift D, right click, scale to -1 on the Y axis to duplicate it over to the other side. Then do the same shit over here on the other side, or you can just rotate it by 180. Make sure to correct the normals. You can now select all of these cubes individually like this. If you deselect the top and bottom faces, you can just use Alt S to adjust the thickness here. Now we're gonna take these faces, duplicate them, separate them to new object, extrude Alt S, give it a little bit of thickness. In object mode, select this and press Ctrl 2 to give it some subdivision surface. But then you're gonna bevel all the edges to sharpen them up a little bit to make them look more realistic. Set the shape value here to 1. Go to Object, Shade Smooth. Select the bed frame here, add a new material, just make that metallic and low roughness. And now we want to add a pillow, and since I already brought Sketchfab into this conversation, let me teach you how to download models over there and import them into your file. Go to Sketchfab, type in pillow. You can pick whatever pillow you like. I'm gonna go with this basic ass pillow right here. Now go down here to download 3D model, and shout out to the 3D Mish. When you click on download, you want to download the JLB. Don't ask me why. And then you're gonna go up here to file, import JLB, and this is where you're gonna find your pillow JLB, import JLB. There's your fucking pillow. It's bigger than planet Earth. You're gonna scale them down a little bit. All the times these downloaded objects are gonna have shitty topology, and they're gonna consist of multiple different objects, so you might want to join them into one with Control J. We want to reduce and detriangulate the geometry, so just select everything and press Alt J. Now scale it down a little bit more, place it onto your tanning bed. It's parented to something, so let's unparent that with Alt P, clear, and keep transformation, and just place them whatever way you want to place them, something like this. And this is where you can get crazy, because now you can go ahead and add a bunch of little tables and drinks and whatever the fuck you want to put into this scene. You can download a sailboat and place it in the background somewhere. You can download an inflatable duck. You can get a slave and put him over here in the corner. Do whatever you want to do. The more stuff you add, the cooler it's gonna look, because there's gonna be more shit to look at. And this is the part where you gotta get creative. You can do whatever you want to do now. I changed the HDRI. I'm probably gonna change it again. I'm gonna fuck with the lighting a little bit more. I also made the watercolor here a little bit more blue. I might go up here and add a hue saturation value node to the HDRI to make it more saturated in color. I might reduce the strength of the HDRI to make it look more like evening. Hell, I might even play around with the hue to get some kind of vaporwave vibe, or who knows what I want. If you're a beginner, don't worry too much about making this look photorealistic. Try to focus on making it look cool. Here's what my final scene looks like. I'm gonna post this shit on Instagram. If you want to ask me a question, go follow me on Instagram. And now if you want to learn more about Blender and how to use it as a professional and how to make some money, we're gonna teach you how to get clients, how to find jobs, how to build your portfolio, how to grow your social media, how to network with people, and everything else you need to know if you want to get into the industry professionally. So go check out the Digitally Enhanced Club. There's a link for that in the description. Also check out my Blender ebook if you want to learn more about modeling and texturing in Blender, but you can learn all that inside the school as well. Like the video, subscribe to the fucking channel if you haven't already. Let me know down in the comments what you want to see next. I'll see you in the next one.